Okay.
All right, the broadcast is live.
Hello,
Yes.
everyone.
Hey. Yeah. Go Z. Welcome. Welcome
Uh,
everyone to our November meetup, and we're very glad that we have Thomas here with us. And yeah, we're excited to have you, Thomas.
Thanks. It's great to be there.
Uh, right.
Yeah,
You guys have any questions for Thomas?
yeah.
so
Well, first, I
yeah,
mean,
I
yeah,
go.
you go ahead. All right.
That's okay. I'll go first. I'll go first.
Yeah.
So, what's it like maintaining? I think you have been maintaining around 3 to 4 packages, and those packages are actually quite large.
Yeah, you're right. I tend to publish more and more packages, honestly. The good thing is that most of them have very little maintaining effort. Yeah. So, for example, Gedit, my most popular one, I think I get 1 or 2 issues a week with questions, and so mostly it just works. From the other ones, I hear even less. So it's okay. But for example, things like what's now coming on with the null safety migration, it's quite something to do. I started with Gedit, and I already gave the team such a list of problems that I found during them, and they said, "Oh, great! We have an example that we can use for testing because you use some patterns there that are not that usual." So yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
Sir
thanks.
Johnny, you have a question earlier.
Yeah. No, I mean, was going to mention I've been using some of the packages like the Get It. Um, Actually, I just wanted to ask, like for example, I mean, for your talk today, it's RVMS, right?
Yeah,
What was the motivation for that
I'm coming on this
creation?
on the first slide.
All right, right.
On the,
Oh,
on the
okay.
All right. And yeah,
So,
like thank you, Johnny. And yeah, we can start. Like, let me just prepare mine as well. Okay, the screen is ready. Okay. Um, Again, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us here for our November meetup. And today with us is Thomas. He's a freelance developer in Flutter and Dart GDE based in Germany. He's the author of several well-known packages that some of you might be using, such as Get It, Flutter Command, and Functional Listeners, and a lot of open source projects now on his GitHub account. And we're really excited to have him with us tonight. And without further ado, I'll share your screen here. And yeah,
Okay,
you're on the
awesome,
stage.
awesome. Yeah, let's start. Thanks for this nice introduction. RVMS, yeah. Maybe some people have already seen a similar appropriation. It was called RxVMS. This was the working state before. I will come to this a little bit later. So why another architecture? Honestly, so far we don't have any real standard architecture for Flutter apps. We have certain certain patterns for state management, and we have packages for this, but we don't really address what is how should I structure my app? How will everything play together? Yeah, and for example, the well-known patterns like MVVM don't match at all the reactive nature of Flutter. So that's the reason why I started to explore how we can structure our app in a way that really fits for Flutter. And I want to show you what were my goals for this. So number one, and this is one of the things I really want to stress, easy to explore and to understand. It's such a crucial point if you are working on a project, even for yourself. If you come back to your code half a year later and you don't understand what you are doing, and or you take a lot of time to get into it, then something is wrong. And even worse is it for any newcomer coming onto your project. So it has to be easy to explore, which means I have to be able to go to definition in my IDE to every part that is connected. So not like in Redux, where everything is done over interfaces and you can't really follow the flow easily. Then also no configuration by convention. So because also this is, there's a lot of magic going on then there, and you don't know really how it fits everything together. Then I also wanted to have the ability that not one team is focused only on widgets, and one team is does the layer below, and another team does the layer below there. But I wanted to have something that is more vertical structure. So that if you work on a feature, you are responsible for the whole vertical layers, and therefore you have you really feel that you have an ownership about this. Easy to test. That's more or less clear. Minimal boilerplate code, so really as little as possible. And it should be fun to work with. And it's highly reactive. Oh, yeah, the RDX I said. I had in the beginning, I used a package RX command inside this architecture, which was based on streams. Therefore, it was RX VMS. But now the current version that I show you today is completely based on value notifiers. So you don't need any streams, and it's just RVMS. And if you ask highly reactive, what do I mean by this? I mean something like this here, which means that really some event is triggered by the user, and automatically your UI reacts on it. Yeah, so you don't wait anywhere for a result if you query data, but you only trigger the query of the data, and your UI has to react when the data is there. Okay, structure. Now this answers what's RVMS. What the VMS is? It's views, managers, services in this layer. And additionally, we have domain objects and aggregators and adapters. Let's start from the bottom. Services. So everything that has to do with the outside of your app. So like this can be server REST API. It can be a local database. It can be a location service. All this is encapsulated by services. They also do all the data conversion, so that all the layers above can directly work with objects in the way they want them to have. Then important services are more or less dumb. They don't change any app state on their own. Each service should also only wrap one external aspect. So we have several services, not one service layer that does everything, which makes it much easier to mock a single service for testing, and to minimize the coupling between different services. So if you have a bigger team, they can be developed separately. Managers. This is the part where the music plays, I would say. So business logic is here. And this can be, and the thing is, a manager is more than a view model. A view models typically only address or provide data for one view, and a manager it groups related functionality together that is semantically related. Say things like, for example, if I have a user manager, it will have all the functions for user management, or a notification manager, or if I have if it's some business app, you could have an invoice manager, for example. So typically, they provide the CRUD functionality for domain objects. So they read, write, modify domain objects, and do also logic that might transform the data. And to do this, they use services or other managers. And to connect them to the UI, we use commands and value listenables. And we will see later on, we access them by using a service locator, or some people call it dependency injection. I think service locator is the better name for this in this case. And views, okay. It seems quite self-explanatory. I think important is here, for example, they should be self-responsible. That means that a view, at least a little bit more complex views, they know what data they need and where to get them from. So we don't push this data into these views, but they directly access managers, or in case, for example, things like on Compass service, they can even directly reach down to a service in an read-only way. And to modify the data, they have to use commands in managers or call functions in the managers. So important, they don't modify any data over services, and they don't change any state that isn't related to the tasks that this view has. If there is something that has to be triggered on an event from this view, then that has to be done by the managers with each other, and not from this view. Okay, I think domain objects, more or less, I think is clear. And with aggregators, I mean, sometimes, for example, if you have a stream, or if you have on value listenable, you can always transport one type of data. So sometimes if it happens that you need several different objects that you want to pass to the UI, so you wrap them together in an aggregator object to pass them through a value listenable, for example, or an adapter if you need to convert again. But it's not that much used if you are working with Flutter. So here's a typical structure, if you how this would look like. We have our services, two managers. The managers can also interact with each other, and also and the views interact with the managers, or sometimes also down to the location service. And in this direction, we always use value listenables, and in the other way, we use commands. So what is a command? I use this word several times. This is no new invention by me. It's based on the reactive commands of the reactive UI package on .NET. And I used them to love when I was doing .NET. And so I decided to port them in a way. They have several outputs, and each output is a value notifier. And the whole command itself is also a value notifier. And a command wraps a function that can then be called by calling the execute function of the command. So you can wrap synchronous or asynchronous functions, and by calling the command, this will be executed. Then the idea is that you call the command. Actually, the nice thing is this command is a callable class, so you can directly pass a command object to a handler of a widget. And it has several outputs. It has itself where it emits the result type. So every command has to be declared with 2 types. It's one is the type of input data that you pass in, or one parameter, and often the type of the result that the command returns. And from this, we have this different value notifiers. The value itself, the results is actually a combination of the data of this 3 plus the data. I won't go in this at the moment. More interesting is we have is executing and a thrown exception value notifier. So the moment you trigger, you call the command, is executing will change to true. And when the function has finished and returned the data, even for async functions, is executing will switch to false again. In contrast, the can execute here will be switched to false the moment I execute the command, and will switch back to true when the function is finished. Now, you might wonder, why do I have 2 value notifiers that are just complementary to each other? And the thing is, they are not just complementary. We have, you can pass to a command an input value notifier. Actually, I have to be sorry that I haven't updated from GitHub the latest version of this application, because it's renamed. It's called restrictions now. You can pass on value notifiers of restrictions. With that, you can lock the command that it can't get executed. So this means if you pass in false here, it automatically, the can execute will switch to false. Oops. Independent of is executing. Yeah. So can execute can be nicely used to switch the enable state of a button, for example. So to make it a little bit more clear, let's look at this animation. So we trigger the button. The button calls the command. And now we see can execute emits false, is executing emits green, and the command itself calls the async function call behind. PowerPoint is not so easy sometimes when it comes to animations. So this disables the button, enables the progress indicator till the data is back. Then the data is transferred, and at the same time is executing, and can execute changes again. So the other building block that I use is the service locator, get it, if you haven't seen it yet. The reason why I reported this, because this is also based on a .NET class, which was called Slack. No, not Slack. What was it called? Sorry, I just forgot the original name. It comes back. So was that I was not able to do with inherited widgets what I wanted to do. Somehow I just didn't get them working in a way that they automatically updated the UI. And so I thought, if I have to use something like streams or so anyway, I want to use a service locator that I was used to use, that doesn't need a context and is simple to use. You get it itself is a singleton, so you can either access them over the instance field, or you can just create a global variable like here. And then at the beginning of your app, you have to call a setup function. In this case, we register a singleton. It gets passed in the type of the class, as we will refer to the singleton, and in this case it gets an instance of this type, and this can be, like in this case, a derived class, for example, which makes it very flexible, so you can easily switch out implementations. I won't get into too much details about Get here, but you can easily switch between testing and runtime versions, or it's between different backend versions, just by switching out which instance you pass in here. The app itself always uses the type that you pass here. And to use it, instead of making this typically here with the auth context, we now do get the type that we want, that we have registered, and get it itself is also a callable class, so we can directly write SL. Oh, this dot is too much. I just see SL app model update. Yeah. And since quite recently, it gets even easier to use it, because in the past, Get only was able to provide you with the objects that you have registered. Together with the Get mixin, it gets full working state management solution, because it gives you several functions that will automatically update values as soon as the value changes. For example, with the Get mixin, you get access to the watchX function. WatchX observes any value listenable, so not only value notifier, anything that is in value listenable. And you inside here you have an accessor. You pass in an accessor function that tells you where is this value notifier. For example, WatchX automatically accesses the model class from Get, and with this lambda here, you tell WatchX you want the name property of the object, and this should be watched, and the result is passed to this variable. And you can do this even in nested situations. Yeah. And the nice thing now is, anytime this value changes, this build method here will rebuild. And this is just a stateless widget. No, we don't need a stateful widget for this. We don't even need any builders for this. So we don't need a value listenable builder somewhere. We can just use an WatchX and use then the variable directly in our widget. And as I said before, Flutter command is itself a value notifier. So it's very easy to connect the command in our model with the Get mixin to your UI. But we can do a little bit more with the mixin. We can also observe a stream or a future. And the nice thing is that the mixin will automatically dispose anything at the end when the widget is no longer used. So without this, you would need to do this in a stateful widget. So now you can just use it in this way. It's very similar, like the hooks approach from Rosilien. And you can even register handlers that show, for example, show dialog or execute any function that happens as soon as value listenable changes or a stream emits a value or a future completes. So this was a lot of theory. Let's switch over to some code to make this a little bit, a little bit more easy. Oh, just we have to wait. I definitely have too much things open here. Yeah. So I hope that should be okay. Yeah, this should be okay from the size, I think. So let's first have a look at the app that we have here. It's a very basic app. It queries a weather API, and it has an update button that updates the data. And we can up here we can filter, for example, and if you are looking closely, the filtering or the new query is not directly executed, but it waits for a moment that I pause with the typing, so that the remote API is not too much triggered, too often called. Yeah, and we will see how this is solved in this version. And it has not any real sense in this, but it's good to show how it works. It has this small switch down here, which disables the update button. And you see at the moment when I press update, the button also gets disabled. And also it's as it is hooked up to a command blocks that you can trigger a function while it's already running. So how does this look like? Let's first have a look on the UI. So this is the homepage. We use the mixin, and with the we register a handler to the thrown exceptions value notifier. Oh, I didn't explain them before. Any exception that is thrown inside the function that is wrapped by the command won't break, but it will be published on this thrown exceptions value notifier. So you can easily access this. And we use the register handler function to so that we can show a dialog if at the moment if an error occurs. So we also want to observe the from the update weather command, the SX is executing value notifier, and it's assigned to is running. The update button enabled, we observe the can execute of the command, and also the switch value, the current switch value will be the current value of the set execution state command. because the command itself is also a value listenable. So, and the nice thing about this is otherwise we would need several value listenable builders. We don't need this here. We can directly go down here and see that we have the switch here. It directly it accesses with the get function the command and passes it directly to the onChanged. And we have here inside the stack, we have an if that queries the is running, and if it's true, it will show the progress indicator. So this is through this is very clean. And here the search box, the text field also gets directly passed in the text changed command of the weather manager class. So, yeah, and the update button enabled. I forgot this one. Is here. I can directly use it to switch out the command for null to disable. Now, how does this look from below? So, I recommend structuring your app in a way that is feature-based and not by kind of object. So I don't group together all widgets and all pages and all managers, but I group them together by a feature with everything that belongs to it. So in this case, we have only a homepage, but the homepage has managers. Has a manager, for example. Yeah, it has a model, and which is the business objects, the domain objects, and it has a service. So and in our main, the only thing that is interesting here is that we call at the beginning register view model, and this registers these two different objects inside getIt so that we can use it anywhere else. So let's start a short look into the service, although this one is the most boring one, because what this does is just that we have an async function, an update function that gets in filter text, and this is all what it does. It calls this REST API, the AP openweather.org. Now, the manager is much more interesting. Up here, we define the commands that we want to use. So we have an update weather command that expects a string and will return a list of weather entry. Then we have a set execution state command that expects a bool and will return a bool, and a text change command that expects a string and returns a string. So why do we have? We'll see in a moment why we use the text change command, why it will return a string. So typically, you create your commands inside the constructor of your managers. In this case, the set execution state command is pretty simple. We use and create sync. We create a synchronous command which expects bool, and the function is just it passes the value through. Why does it do this? As said before, as commands are value notifiers itself, which means the command itself can store a value that can then be read by the UI. So if the switch that is connected to the set execution state command changes, the new value of the switch will automatically get the new value of the set execution state command, which then updates the switch current state in the UI. Then the update weather command, in this case, we use create async because it's an async function that we have to deal with. And we pass in the update function of the weather service. Initial value, as every command is value notifiers always need an initial value. And as you see here, we now can directly pass in the set execution state command as restriction parameter. So every time set execution state command changes, it automatically will change the ability that the update weather command can be executed or not. So the text change command, we also just use them to we pass through the value, and we could directly we could wrap inside here directly a command that will trigger the update weather command each time that the text in the search field changes. But we want, I showed before that we want this ability that we wait for a moment till the user stops with typing before we really emit a REST call. And this we do by using another package for me. It's called Functional Listener. Functional Listener offers you functions like you have the streams and RX, but for value listenables. So I can easily say text change command debounce. Debounce makes sure that it waits that the current value stays stable for at least 500 milliseconds before it triggers an action. And listen is also an extension method from functional listener, which makes it easier that you can register a handler and directly get past the current value. So and we pass in here a function that gets the current value, and what it does is it calls the execute function of update weather command with the current value. The second parameter that we don't use here is cancel function that you could call from inside here to stop this listening. And okay, down here I also, for debugging, I have another I listen to these thrown exceptions and don't print out. And at the very beginning of my app startup, I call the execute command that the list view is already filled. Yeah, and that's it. So the behavior of the app that I showed you before is completely expressed within these lines, which is more or less declarative because we define rules that will get automatically executed. Okay, to give you an idea, I showed you before the way how I organize this here. Give you a short look into my current app that looks a little bit more complex. Because here I have, for example, the main page with phone and tablets, and I have all widgets that are used only in this feature are directly grouped here. Yeah. Then in this application, the map plays big role. So the map gets its own feature, and the map has its own manager, and it's no longer service managers. It has its own managers, and also widgets and data. The same. Then we have a shared folder where I put things that are used by multiple features and not just by one. And this widgets folder is really only for widgets that are also shared by many features. And here's the startup and the in locator I have all my services registered as with the possibility that get it offers. So I think we are through. I already showed you this here now, and the widget I explained also before. I think we can. There's some resources. The whole representation and the project can be found on GitHub on my repository. So I think we can switch to questions.
Hey Thomas, can you hear me?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, well, that's a very well presented architecture, and we're excited to use it as well for some of the projects that we'll try to experiment with.
Sharing.
Sir Johnny, can you share your screen for the questions?
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I just had here some. Just it.
Let me just open up.
Yeah. Fine.
Right.
Wait.
Let me just. All right. Let me just. Maybe I should do it, Sir Johnny. Okay, so I'll just share my screen.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Sir Johnny. Yeah, your call.
All right. Cool. So here are some questions.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go for the first one. Would you suggest having an architecture as a package in pubdev or write them from scratch per project?
Honestly, I haven't thought about this yet. I would typically do it for each project because it's different how which folders I would need. And one important thing here also is, I didn't tell this before, you can, for example, also use gedit, you can use Flutter command without gedit, or you can implement this architecture also with provider and Flutter command, for example. So it's up to you. I would say I would do it for every project again. It's not that big. Most things, are quickly set up. Yeah, it's a difference between gedit and provider.
Yeah. So what's the difference?
First, gedit was there first.
Nice.
So, okay.
The thing is, both allow to access objects from anywhere in your app. With the fine difference that provider needs a context for this, that you are able to do this, and gedit don't need a context for this. This has its advantages and disadvantages. Gedit, for example, can be used outside of the widget tree. You can use it in your lower layers without any problems. Provider, for example, has the ability that you can scope them with your widget tree, so that you can have a second provider widget that overrides the ones below. I would say it's greatly a matter of taste and also what sort of functionality appeals to you additionally to the pure location of an object. So gedit, for example, offers some very comfortable synchronization of startup, of the app startup, for example. If your managers or services need async calls to initialize, it will automatically handle this for you, so that you that you don't have to care about this app startup. It also has scopes now in the meantime, and with the get mixin together, it gets some real power when you use it so that you only need mostly stateless widgets and no stateful widgets. Okay.
All right. We have here then another question. When using get it mixin and watch X, how heavy it is in regards to the UI rebuilding itself if the widget is huge?
Yeah, obviously, it is not a good idea to use a really, really, really big widget and possibly with multiple watch X inside, and then rebuild always the full screen. It's the right way would be breaking it down in smaller widgets, and the smaller widgets can again use the get it mixin. Yeah. So then only this smaller widgets will be rebuilt.
All right. Z?
Okay, so this next question is saying, if I have like 3 sign-in buttons for different providers, will it disable all of the 3 buttons or just 1, 2 of them?
Yeah, the thing is, actually, that depends how you want to model it, yeah. Because as the can execute value notifier is a value notifier like anyone else. So multiple buttons can listen to changes on this value. So you can make it that all buttons will disabled automatically, but you also could use some of the pipelining functions from functional listeners to combine it with some other state, for example, with some in your app, so that you it only will react if some other command, for example, has a certain value. You're extremely flexible. I highly recommend having a look at functional listener for this one.
Yeah, I think that also answers his follow-up question wherein let's go over to, yeah.
How do you structure a master detail flow in RVMS? And this is only can also say it depends. The thing is, you can master detail. You can implement a master detail differently. You can do the whole navigation of the pages from the UI. So, for example, that your master page directly directly pushes detail pages. But you also could do it in a way that you for example, you have your master page and you connect all menu entries there, for example, with the same command, and pass along a value, an ID, which of the elements you want to show, and this command will just pass on this ID, and in the widget for the detail page, you just listen for this command and display different pages depending on the ID that you get when WatchX gets updated.
That's good.
Okay, then.
Next question. Is manager equivalent or similar to block or change notifier?
Yes and no. Okay. Block typically is, I would more say block is you can compare block to a Flutter command. So everywhere where you would use a block, you can also use a Flutter command with all the benefits that I've shown you. Especially also, you don't have to push a value into the block if the event happens, because the command is called like a function. And also, change notifier is more or less a re-implementation of value notifier with some added benefits, which also is realized by the command. A manager is the object that holds the commands, and that groups all commands together that are connected to the same topic, I would say. But its manager is typically very long-lived. Most of the time you create them only once, and they live over your whole app cycle. And so they only they act as the place where you implement your commands and define their behavior.
Ooh.
All right, we still have a few more left. Yeah, like how can I do side effects in RxVMS? Is that possible?
The question is, do you have an idea what is the user means by that?
Yeah, I think probably he's referring to, for example, like in Mobex, you can do computed observables whenever there's a reaction on a specific, like specific observable. There could be a side effects, and these additional observers listening to the values that was initially changed. So it's kind of like computed values.
Here I would you have always the possibility that you can register several listeners to one command, and with the functional listeners, for example, you can also it also offers a map function that converts the data every time the value changes. It converts it before it triggers something. So you are extremely flexible over this way. I think, with this you can create your side effects.
All right, probably a personal question from Bellamy. What font or theme do you use on VS Code?
Yeah, I saw some of your types were in cursive earlier.
Yeah. This font is called Dunk Mono. Unfortunately, not longer sold. I really love it, but it's not longer available to buy. But there are several other fonts like Fira Code, for example, that look similar.
All right, last question, John.
Mono.
So last question is: get it an indirectional flow.
Is get it an unidirectional flow?
Get it itself not. But if you use the command in combination with it, then yes.
Yep.
Because the command very clearly structures. Call it, pass data in, and then the result comes back over the command over the command's value notifier. So I would say it is an unidirectional flow. Yeah.
All right, that will be all for the questions. Guys, do you have questions for Thomas? Right. Thank you, Thomas, for joining, and having you here is a really good opportunity for us and our community, to learn what RxVMS is and what is a typical Flutter architecture should look like, especially if they're just about to scale their project. And yeah, do you have any message for Flutter community or Thomas?
I would just say give it a try because most of the time if people if developers directly get told, oh, use provider and or use block, and I think especially with the command pattern, it's an interesting alternative to structure your state management. So give it a try. Even if you don't use get it, you can use command differently. Functional listener is something that is very handy, completely outside of this topic. And you also, if you don't want to use command, you can only just use the get it mixin together with get it. You also have a simple state management solution. So mostly. Besides the point that some things are easier to implement with one state management package than with the other, it's in the end mostly a matter of taste. It is like this. Yeah, you really have to see with what are you comfortable, and then just use that one. Yeah, and yeah. And if you find out,
yeah, like, and in the end, like, as developers, we're really leaning towards creating better products, like for end users, instead of like over engineering things, like, and not be able to feel the value that we bring to the user. So yeah, I agree to your point. Yeah. All right, and yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and see you on the next one. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.